have an idea for 18. This is the mock exam, part A, multiple choice. And somebody had a question about 18, which, okay, so it says, which of the following is true? Okay, so what we need to remember when we look at an equation like this, no matter how messy it is, there's some stuff we can tell about that equation right off the bat. It's a sine wave, right? And because it's a sine wave, it's going to have amplitude. And in fact, its amplitude is 2.1. So that means our midline, here's our midline, which is at 2.6. Whatever our curve looks like, it's going to go up and down 2.1 from that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Which means the highest it can go would be 4.7, and the lowest it can go would be 4.5. So the maximum height of the tide is 4.7. That is a true statement because that is the highest that it can go. Does that make sense to you? Remember, you don't have to graph this. This is a yicky equation. You don't have to graph it. You just have to understand what all those numbers mean. And maximum height would refer to an amplitude. Okay, good. Does that take care of that for you? Okay, Mark? 21. Okay, and then I gotta go back and get some of these people that asked before and I forgot. Binomial theorem. We're expanding this. X minus 4y to the fifth. So remember, when we expand a binomial, it's going to have a bunch of, that means FOIL it out. It's going to have a bunch of terms, and every term is going to have three components. Every term is going to have some kind of coefficient, some power of x, and some power of negative 4y. Every term is going to have that. We know from our previous work and just from thinking about what happens when you FOIL something like x plus y squared, that the powers on x, the first part of the binomial, are going to decrease down the line. So in the first term, if you multiplied all that out, the first term would be x to the fifth, right? The next term would be x to the fourth, and so on. So I know when I write all this out, I'm going to have an x to the fifth, an x to the fourth, an x to the third, an x to the squared, an x to the first, and an x to the zero. Those are my x's. That's what's going to happen when I FOIL it. And then the same thing's going to happen with your negative 4, oh wait, yeah. That same thing's going to happen with your negative 4y's, only they go the other way. The big Y is going to be on that end. So we talked about this before. It's not really part of this particular problem, but in each term, the exponents add up to 5. Now the only thing missing are what are these coefficients out here in front?
Use the triangle.
We can get the coefficients from Pascal's triangle. So Pascal's triangle is given here. Starts with a 1 and a 1. That's like x plus y. And then each row starts and ends with a 1, and then you add the preceding ones. And that's the row I need because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, fifth power. So I'm going to put a 1 here, a 5, a 10, a 10, a 5, and a 1. And I squeezed all this in so I don't have very much room. But there they are.
Maybe, I never learned it.
Now we're lucky because we're not asked to simplify. You do have to pay attention. Well, first of all, that's going to go away. And this is going to go away because anything to the 0 power is just 1. But this term will actually become a negative term. Do you see that? So that is actually going to become a negative 5. Now this one's going to stay positive because it's squared. This one will become negative. That one will stay positive, and this one will become negative. Now there's more simplifying we could do. For example, we could multiply the 5 and the 4, but they didn't. So now it just becomes a matching exercise. X to the 5th. All right, and then minus 5x4, y1. So C, looks like C is our match. Okay. Fred?
Number 19, yeah, 19.
19 says the rational function, which of the following is the slope of the slant asymptote? Remember, if the power, say the rational function, fraction, if the power on top is 1 larger than the power on the bottom, you are going to have a slant asymptote. And to find the slant asymptote, we do the division, okay? So for problem 19, it would be, you can't use synthetic, you have to do long. The division would be this. Top divided by bottom. Now, is it obvious to you that when you divide this into this, you're gonna get some kind of linear thing here? You're gonna get a line here? And you wanna know what is gonna be the coefficient on the x? Well, you don't have to do the whole division. When I divide x squared into x cubed, aren't I gonna get just x? And then that would give me my x cubed and my 3x squared. And I could keep going, but I don't need to. Because the question said, what's the slope of the asymptote? The slope of the asymptote is just x, 1. If there had been a 2 here, then the slope of the asymptote would be 2. If there had been a negative 3 here, the slope of the asymptote would be negative 3.
So all the other numbers, they won't affect like its y-intersect or like it's
Not
anything
its
else?
slope, nope, not its slope.
Okay.
Because as these two things get, as x gets bigger and bigger and bigger, none of this matters. It's just 2 at the original. It's just x cubed over x squared, which is x. Y equals x. All right, what else? Did I forget any? Were there others? 16. Okay, so don't make this hard. I can see where you can allow yourself to get too bogged down. It might get confusing. This is a pretty easy one. If we remember a couple of things. So let's see what we've got. I've got an angle, theta, and this is point Q. And we know our radius is 4. We can tell that from the problem that the radius is 4. And, okay. All right, so that's what we got going on. All right, so we want to know, oh wait, we know the length of the arc is 3. Okay, now stop right there. Arc length equals radius times radians. So arc length is 3, the radius is 4, and the angle is theta. So what does theta equal? 3/4. So I'm looking at my situation and I want to find the distance from Q to the y-axis. So that's x, that's what I'm trying to figure out, right? Isn't that the same as this right here? If I want to keep it in my triangle. And that's a little right triangle there. I know my radius is 4. So can I say cosine 3/4 equals x over 4? Cosine of this angle, which is 3/4, equals adjacent over hypotenuse, or x over r. So x equals 4 cosine 3/4. All right, is that it? Are there more? How did you do? What were there like 15 assigned, something like that? 12 assigned? How did you do? Did you get most of them right? Did some of them right? Good, 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 good. Nothing to be scared of. All right, let me hand out now the calculator multiple choice. So the part you just finished, an hour and 20 minutes. An hour and 20 minutes for that section. You get 40 minutes for this.
Oh, how's your shit always dead?
Oh, yeah, is this the one I did?
I don't put the case on
No way. Just like push the button.
What's that?
I press second command. This is second on or off. Well, you don't be ready.
Okay,
Smile.
I have done these and I just wanted to remind you of a couple of things. Let's look at number 77 real quick, and then I promise I'll let you get back and work on your own.
It starts on 76.
Let's look at number 77.
Every day the book I will freak out.
Okay. And I just want to remind you, you have a calculator. When you have a calculator, use it to its fullest extent. So you've got cosine squared x over 2 minus 0.3, and you need to add that to cosine x. So we are building a new function called h that's made by adding f and g. Does everybody see that? Now, what are the zeros on the interval from 0 to pi? Kids, please do not mess around trying to solve this equation by hand. You have a calculator. So graph it and look where it crosses the x-axis. Does that make sense to you? Now, putting this in may be tricky for some of you. Remember, this means cosine x over 2 squared. So you've got to use some parentheses here to type that in. This is your x, min, and max on your window. Obviously, you gotta be in radians. Everything, set that calculator in radians and don't change it. Radians. And then your x is gonna be, x min is 0, x max is pi. You're gonna graph that equation, and you're gonna see if you can figure out where it crosses.
Should we be in polar mode or no?
Oh yeah, get out of polar mode. We are not in polar mode, we're in function mode.
Something.
You said function mode?
Yeah, the function.
You know, fuck. Real or ASB?
You'll still be in that theta.
Real or A?
No, you're in function mode now.
For what? Real. Real.
When I did it, I said it was answer C. 1.705, Ben's over there nodding. He's got a crossing at 1.705. So again, I have emphasized no calculator a lot. If you have a calculator in your hand, use it as much as you can, okay? Don't do stuff by hand that you don't have to. Let the calculator do the work. Okay, there was one more. I forgot. Okay, there are a couple in this where you have to create your own plot, your own equation. So let's look at 83 for a second. Problem 83. Okay, everybody looking at 83, this is the last one I'm gonna do, and I'll set you loose. Everybody that's looking at 83. All right, the table gives values for the function at selected values of t, sinusoidal regression. So, you are gonna go to stat edit, and you're gonna put those numbers in. And then you're gonna go to stat calc and choose the sine regression. Am I speaking a language you understand? You're gonna get that equation. Then you're gonna plug 21 into that equation, allowing the calculator to do that, and I got 35.4. Remember how we store that equation, and then all we have to do is type y of 21, and it gives us the answer not rounded off or anything.
Wait, how do we, I got the list on what we do.
We just go to stat calc and get our equation. And then, well, that's gonna be okay, but you're not gonna be able to plug your 21 in now. You can't plug your 21 in, so you need to start over. Now, L1, we did all this before. 2, and then you get your y variable. Now,
You gotta say it's a circle,
you
square,
do the same equation. Now,
triangle, 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 D-pad, bumper.
Left, left, right, right, up, down, A, B, start.
What's that?
Yeah, some kick.
so if there are things you've forgotten how to do on your calculator, we gotta refresh, okay? Did you get 35.4? Okay. All right, that's it. I'm done talking. I want you, this packet needs to be done by tomorrow. I want you to go ahead and get started. I'm also going to give you some free response. So depending on how far we get with this, you may have some free response homework. We'll hand it out now.